And greetings. Merry Christmas. Happy Monday. Welcome to the Steve Deace Show here live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast with Todd Erzin and Aaron McIntyre. I'm Steve Deace. We are brought to you by Conduit Clothing. You know, a lot of people talk about standing up for what they believe in, but sometimes the hardest thing to do is to actually start that conversation. That's why we are partnered with our friends over at the the Conduit Clothing Company, the Christian apparel brand that's not just selling shirts or hats or hoodies. Maybe you saw the hoodies Aaron and I were wearing on the show Friday. They're building a movement to help believers like you represent your faith and share it boldly. So here's what's awesome. Every single order, you don't just get outstanding clothing, but every single order, even if it's just a $2 sticker, comes with a free hardcover ESV Bible. That's the version that we've been using in our study of Romans. And it's not for you to keep, though, but to give away. Friends, coworkers, family members, someone who really needs to hear the Word of God, needs to hear the gospel. Conduit Clothing exists to help Christians get out of their comfort zone, to pray for the unsaved, to be a light in a dark world. So if you're ready to wear your faith, literally, and share it, go to conduitclothing.com, CONDUIT, conduitclothing.com. All orders, regardless of size, will qualify for a 10% discount for this audience with the offer code STEVE at checkout. That's conduitclothing.com. Use the promo code STEVE, and you can be bold, be faithful, be a conduit for Christ at conduitclothing.com using the promo code STEVE. All right, we've got a jam-packed show here today. So between upcoming Christmas break, where we're going to be out of here, we got at least a week less of month with the holidays, and then we're all going to AmFest next week. We're going to be doing the show live from there most of next week. At least one of us will be, and then Todd and Aaron are joining me later in the week. So between all of that and all those goings on, there's a lot we want to squeeze in here before the end of the year. All right, so our good buddy Bob Vander Plaats is going to be here at the bottom of the hour. He just got back from a trip to D.C. We're going to have him kind of give us the skinny of some of the stuff he heard in terms of the upcoming 2028 presidential race and more. And then we're going to be joined another friend of mine who just got back from a big trip. Iowa governor candidate Adam Steen just got back from the TPUSA event at Mar-a-Lago and got a chance to see, hear, and meet Erica Kirk in person. So we're going to hear from him about that and how that impacted him. Hearing from that outstanding organization. That's coming up in the next hour. And then our old friend, attorney Davis Younts, is going to join the show and introduce us to Brigadier General Chris Sage. And he may be forced into retirement over the poisonous jab. And I know what some of you are thinking, listen, man, we're almost at the end of 2025. How is this happening? And I thought Pete Hegseth has cleaned this thing up over there at the Pentagon. Well, apparently, Chris's story here as a brigadier general is still slipping through the cracks. So we're going to try to highlight it here so that he doesn't have to retire, because he's the last kind of person we want retiring, and he can stay and continue doing what he is currently doing and loves doing, which is serving us in this country. All right, so we're going to tell you about that story coming up a little bit later on in the program. But let's kick this thing off, as we always do, with Aaron's rundown of what happened while we were away.
What happened while we were away, brought to you by a massive case before SCOTUS. After we got off the air Friday, it was announced the Supreme Court will hear arguments for and against President Trump's order to end birthright citizenship. Trump issued the Protecting the Meaning and Value of American Citizenship executive order on his first day in office of his second term. The order prohibits granting citizenship to persons born in the country to mothers illegally or temporarily in the United States and whose father is not a U.S. citizen or lawful permanent resident. That executive action was met, of course, with legal quagmires, but now the nation's highest court will sort it out. On Sunday, Congresswoman Ilhan Omar went on a heater. Here she is on Face the Nation discussing who the real victims are from that massive fraud perpetrated by Somalians in Minnesota.
You know, this also has an impact on Somalis because we are also taxpayers in Minnesota. We also could have benefited from the program.
Omar went on to put an interesting label on a prominent Jew.
When I think about Stephen Miller and his white supremacist rhetoric, it reminds me of the way the Nazis described Jewish people.
Meanwhile, in Vermont, the Winooski School District raised a Somali flag in place of the U.S. flag in a show of solidarity or something. Checking in across the pond, here's King Charles.
My wife and I can only offer you all our kindest and most special wishes and stress just how greatly the contribution of Muslims to the life of the United Kingdom is appreciated and valued, embodying the Ramadan spirit of charity and selflessness. As the Quran says, God does not burden any soul with more than it can bear.
Yep, that's the King of England quoting the Quran. Pope Leo, your thoughts?
Some Catholics in Europe believe that Islam is a threat to a Christian identity of the West. Are they right?
I know that in Europe there are many times fears that are present, but oftentimes generated by people who are against immigration and trying to keep out people who may be from another country, another religion, another race. And in that sense, I would say that we all need to work together. One of the values of this trip is precisely to raise the world's attention to the possibility that dialogue and friendship between Muslims and Christians is possible.
Back at home, Utah Republican Senator John Curtis, your thoughts?
I think all of us need to wake up every morning, look in the mirror and say, what are we doing? What am I doing specifically today to make this country a better country, to make all of our immigrants feel more welcome? That's what we've always had. And I think if more of us would do that, it would matter less what individuals said.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis hit congressional Republicans late last week. He says there's a pretty simple plan they should follow in the new year.
What have they done since August till now? They really haven't done anything, right? And it's like, if I were, I'd be like every day coming out with something new and make the Democrats go on the record, show the contrast. Think about why we've been able to win big in Florida is because there's a very sharp contrast to what we're doing and what the liberal Democrats stand for. Parents' rights, illegal immigration, tax cut, anything you can think of. Most voters knew we were on their side, and I think you got to really make that sharp.
President Trump rhetorically body-slammed former Democrat Representative Henry Cuellar after the latter announced he's running for Congress again as a Democrat. Why is Trump mad? Well, Trump just last week pardoned him from bribery charges for reasons. The college football playoff is set, and the Notre Dame Fighting Irish are really mad because a team that beat them and who has the same record as them got into the playoffs, and they did not. Notre Dame later turned down a bowl invitation because apparently that program, much like the sport they play in, is run by children. Speaking of decadence, as you may be aware, this coming year, North America is playing host to the Soccer World Cup, where men's national soccer teams from around the globe descend on our continent to kick a ball around for a few weeks to determine who the best ball kickers are. Last week was the draw ceremony, where each country's squad found out whom they were playing in the opening stages. Prior to that draw taking place, FIFA organizers had already determined that a World Cup match in late June in Seattle would be designated a Pride match because nothing goes better together than soccer and sodomy. Naturally, we found out during the draw ceremony last week that the participants in this Pride match will be Egypt and Iran. And that's what happened while we were away.
Can't make that stuff up. Hell has denominations, Egypt and Iran, where you'll get thrown off a building for being a homo in the Pride match. How do you justify this? Again, you cannot look at our enemies through the prism of our worldview, but you have to look at them through theirs. These are denominations of hell. Right? There's a church of hell, right? Just like there's a church of Christ. And just like within the church of Christ, there are things we have deep, deep disagreements about, and we'll even splinter over those disagreements. But if you look through the 2,000 plus years of Christian orthodoxy, regardless if we're in an era, in an apostolic era, if we are in the era of the Augustan to Reformation era, where Rome was the dominant force of Christianity in the world, if you look at it from an Eastern part of the world perspective, in a Greek Orthodox church, if you look at it from a post-Reformation standpoint, once we get beyond the things we disagree on, the fundamentals of the faith and morality within all of those eras has largely been maintained and preserved for 2,000 years, regardless of which vestige is ascendant, which has schismed from the other. There are essentials we do all agree on. The same thing works in the Church of Hell. There's essentials that they all agree on as well. Number one, they hate God. Number two, they hate you if you love God. And those two things bind them together. So Egypt and Iran for the Pride match, it is. Aaron's montage brought to you by our friends over at Birch Gold. You know, there's a lot of politicians who should be getting coal in their stockings for Christmas, but Birch Gold thinks as a smart planner that you deserve maybe some silver. That's why for every $5,000 you purchase between now and December 22nd, Birch Gold will send you an ounce of silver, which is up over 60% this year. See, smart people, they diversify and have a hedge. That's why I encourage you to buy your gold from Birch Gold. With the rates cut from the Fed in 2026, the dollar is going to be worth even less. What happens if that AI bubble bursts? That's why diversify. Let Birch Gold Group help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold. And for every $5,000 you buy, you'll get an ounce of silver for your stocking and for your kids. What a great way to teach them about saving smartly. Just text my name, Steve, to take advantage of this. Text Steve to 989898. Claim your eligibility for this offer before December the 22nd. Again, text Steve to the number 989898 today because Birch Gold's free silver with qualifying purchase promotion ends December the 22nd. Text Steve to 989898. Okay. Pro tip. Don't pardon Democrats. Arrest them. Anything else on that front? I mean, honestly, I got to be honest with you. That was humiliating. I mean, as a supporter and a voter, I mean, I just found that just humiliating. We got absolutely punked. We pardoned a guy to just turn right around and run against us. And I don't know if the president, that's something, don't highlight that. You got punked, man. Don't highlight your own punking. Just Homer Simpson that thing, back into the bushes. Walk away, call Tim Walz retarded again. I think we're all in favor of that, correct? We are in favor of that. Would you have preferred a third post from Trump calling Tim Walz retarded or admitting I got punked by some nondescript Democrat congressman who I saved from prison just so he could then run against me next year? What would you have preferred that got posted that evening? Because I'm pretty sure.
What a blessed choice in this Advent season.
Aaron, what are your thoughts on that one? I think that one's pretty rock solid. Just call Tim Walz retarded again.
Yeah, I mean, that produced a clip of him saying people drive by my house and say the R word. I mean, yes, I just, you know what? I feel like I should have just thrown that in the montage again, just for a palate cleanser, because that was bad.
Yeah. And it's Trump. Trump, the guy who's called everybody on the right, all the names, doing whatever it takes to win. What you doing? What is this?
Listen, I don't think, maybe there's just, I'm sure there's things I don't know. How can I know things that I'm not in the Oval Office? I'm not there. I'm here in Des Moines. But I just instinctively don't know how you get from a place from they tried to shoot me in the face to I'm going to pardon their people only so they can turn around and run against me again. That's when I got to just be honest, guys. Just calling like I see it around here. Like when I tell you the stuff he does, I absolutely love, which has been quite a few things this year. This one is mind-numbing and kind of embarrassing, frankly, just to, go ahead and highlight your own punking. I just don't get that one. But
all the people that we need to have accountability, all the people, J6ers, that rotted in prison, and again, this just flies in the face of the thing that people are desperate for.
I mean, we got a guy,
side.
We got a Brigadier General coming on today who they already didn't give a second star to, and they're trying to force him into retirement 5 years later for not taking the jab. But let's go ahead and pardon freaking Democrat congressmen so they can turn around and run on us again. What is that? What is that?
I have no idea.
We just got punked. Stop that. How many people that perpetrated the greatest fraud of all time, the auto pen presidency, have been arrested? It's a pretty low number. What do you think it is?
It's round.
It's a round number. Yeah. And really low. 0. DeSantis, of course, is correct. Just start coming up with things you force them to vote no on. Even if there are things half your own congregation, half of your own delegation doesn't want to vote on either, do they like being members of Congress? They won't. See, this is the thing. Lying to us would be an upgrade. For those of you new to politics, you don't understand the way things used to work around here. What used to happen is they were lying to us the entire time, but then they would vote for this stuff in fact, this just kind of changed in the Trump era. So now I'm going to actually be defensive of the president here, because in the Trump era, people like John Curtis are just trying to ultimately sabotage their country and the Trump presidency. John Curtis absolutely would prefer, no matter what he tells you in public, John Curtis, I promise you, I'll bet the credibility of my entire body of work on it. If you put the Wonder Woman lasso of truth around Utah Senator John Curtis, I promise you, he would have preferred Kamala Harris won. I 100% promise. Does anybody want to challenge me on that?
No.
No. Which also, just to backtrack a minute ago, it's why we can't make stupid mistakes like pardoning Democrats. They're going to turn around and run against us. I mean, if we can't get the guy that got shot in the face to consistently understand no quarter here, then maybe there's no one that would possibly ever get it then at that point. But the way things used to work is they would automatically, and they did this even up until Trump took over, like the 52 times they voted to repeal Obamacare, right? And those 52 times, what happened in the midterms of 2010 and 2014 because they did that 52 times? Do you guys remember what happened? The Democratic Party got annihilated nationwide. Annihilated. 2014 saw a 9-seat swing in the U.S. Senate, one of the biggest we've seen since Reconstruction. Now, when you're the party that votes 52 times to repeal Obamacare, but then you turn around and nominate Mitt Romney, who came up with the idea before Obama had it, as your standard bearer, did we really think they were going to repeal Obamacare as they were doing this? Put the Wonder Woman lasso of truth around us in 2011 and 2012. Did you think, in your heart of hearts, they were really going to repeal Obamacare root and branch, like Mitt in between strokes was promising? Did you really believe that?
Root and branch, no.
No. But see, the way it used to work is they would at least lie to us so we could win. And then they would sodomize us after they got into office. Now they won't even do that so we can win. That's all DeSantis is asking him to do. I mean, you can just see from the way the Florida Republican Party has tried to sabotage DeSantis since January, most of the people that were voting for his agenda all this time really didn't believe in it. I think we can see that now, correct? Mm-hmm. They were just doing it because they knew this guy was a tour de force, a force of nature in the state. They couldn't be seen opposing him because he'd just run them over, all right, because he would just take people out in primaries, just name names and take them out, right? So they needed to lie and vote for things they didn't want to vote for. And then the minute they thought that Ron was a lame duck, you've just seen since January, they've essentially tried to sabotage his governorship. But the fact that they had to lie for a while meant a lot of good things got done in the state of Florida, right?
All right.
Okay. It's not, your politicians lying to you is not what should frighten you. It's when they no longer are willing to do so. That is when it is time to say, something smells rotten in the state of Denmark. Something's really broken here. John Curtis has been wanting his, and I don't care how long he's been in the Senate, because he is a legion in Washington. The likes of John Curtis have been waiting to go on places like CNN and grab you from the back of your hair like you were a dog, a pet dog who refused to get potty trained, and rub your nose in your own feces. They've been dying to do it. They couldn't wait to do it. And now they know they can just get away with it.
This is what you said in Nefarious Plot. They're just telling you the truth now. They
just
have to lie because they know you won't fight back.
We've been surviving as a species, politicians lying to us for thousands of years. It's when they start telling us true things, that's when we're screwed, okay? When they start telling us the truth, that's when we're screwed. We've survived as a species with most of them lying to us and a few people that were actually principled. When the people that are unprincipled start telling you the truth, that's when you know danger Will Robinson. We are in existential peril. And that's what John Curtis represents. He's thought this in the entire time. He couldn't wait to tell you. And now he gets to. And I promise you, he'd prefer that Kamala had won. Even if it meant you go to prison for what you believe in. He doesn't care. So in the old days, what would happen, and this wasn't too long ago, just a few years ago when DeSantis was in Congress, less than a decade ago, what they would have done is just lined up all these bills that DeSantis is talking about. They all would have pretended in the Republican Party to all be for them, hung them around the Democrats' neck, and then gone out there and won an election with them, right? Mm-hmm. And then once they had the power, then they would turn around when we gave up because the emotion of the election is over, right? Okay, and we don't really care about policy on the right. I'm just going to do Daniel Horowitz's podcast for him today, so Dan can just take the extended weekend. We don't really care about policy on the right. We just want to win elections. It's just a sporting event to us. We just want to own libs. Okay. And so they know that. And so once they get into power, just, can't do it right away. Just wait till by Valentine's Day, we're completely tuned out. and just go about screwing us the rest of the time. And then we wake up to this, sometime the next year before the next election and lose. Then they get our vote again, promising they're going to do the thing again, and we vote. You see what I'm saying? This worked for a long time. Now they won't even do that. They're not even going to lie to you to win now. They don't want to be a majority. They don't. And they're openly trying to sabotage Trump, which is again why we just can't make stupid mistakes like pardoning Democrats, not arresting them, so they can then turn around and take congressional seats away from us in Texas. We just can't make mistakes like that. It's just dumb. Frankly, if I'm being bold and blunt, it's kind of retarded. Okay? Don't do that. Don't. And when people like John Curtis see stuff like that, they're like, safe for me now to just tell you the truth of what I've really felt the entire time. I hate my base's ever-living guts, and as I've told you for how many years now, going on a third decade, the only party that hates us more than the Democrats are the Republicans. But that's not the worst news. No. ShamWow, there's more. Aaron showing you the back-to-back there, the head of the Church of England, the oldest, largest Protestant church in the history of Europe. And then the oldest church, period, in the history of Christendom, the Pope. Flat out bending over, grabbing ankles for Islam. Thank you, sir. May I have another? Assuming the position. And most Islamists are Bedouins, so they know what to do with a man in that position. Homosexuality has always been rampant in Bedouin cultures. The Islamic conquerors used to take their boy toys with them to the war front during the Crusades so they could rape 14 and 15-year-old boys away from their wives and harems. True facts. Thank goodness it's Leo the 14th and not Leo the 1st saying these things. So there wouldn't have been a Leo the 2nd. I can promise you that. You'd all be speaking Arabic now. We truly would find out the age-old debate, is Rome the Church of Peter or not? Because if Leo the 14th's forebears 1,000+ years ago had said the stuff you heard in that clip, we'd find out. Because it would take literal divine intervention to stop the Islamic conquest of the church. Because we certainly didn't have it in us. He's only here to travel around the world and host Michael Bublé for singing events. Because he crawled over the graves of popes 1,000+ years ago who knew better than that. What a disgrace, and he's a traitor to his own church and faith. And Charles Long has been. How many years have I talked about Charles and his Islamic simpism on this show? As long as I can remember. This is not a new thing. Prince Charles then saw 9/11 and thought, now's the time to convert. Assalamu alaikum. He's been a simp for Islam for decades. I'm tapped out. I could go on, but it would just be variations of the laments I've already the spleens I've already vented. Gentlemen, your thoughts?
Oh, you forgot to talk about the college football playoff, too.
An entire complaint over the entire meltdown is because a team we lost to got in over us. You can't. I mean, okay, whatever, man. Anyway.
That's not the entire lament. It's all a disaster.
Well, that's true, but that's their entire lament. Yeah, that's their entire lament. Yeah.
Yeah, Pope Leo the First. There's two popes. Pope John Paul II it's sometimes used, but there's two popes that are referred to as the Great. And the first one is Pope Leo. And you know who he stopped literally at the city gates from overtaking the city? Attila the Hun. I mean, that's the legacy Steve is referring to. And now he's just, listen, that pit in my stomach that I had because, again, we covered live. And we were in real time learning about things. And no, I had never heard of this guy because he had spent the last 20 years in Peru. And that pit in my stomach I got. And it about 2 months where it's clear now he was doing the safety dance. He gave some good homilies, just like Pope Francis gave some good homilies. But now, as I've said multiple times, and you didn't beat me to it, many people tweeting at me, what do you have to say about this? I said it right away. I said the Pope is a dope. He is of that generation that my deacon friend said just needs to die out. He is just like the boomer generation that destroyed this nation. The boomer generation is now the leader of the Catholic Church and most Christian denominations. How good are any of them doing? But I do not take umbrage with the word the Pope said. This is an absolute portrayal of the faith. Right now, it should be Corpus Christi every day. He should be going on pilgrimage, just every city in Europe, just walking around with the Eucharist and every priest that will follow him and showing Islam exactly what this faith is. This isn't theoretical. Jihadist Islam keeps telling you over and over and over again who they are and what they plan to do. This nicer than Jesus nonsense is a pox on our house.
Let's just work backwards, shall we? So I appreciate, and Ron DeSantis is obviously correct there. What have you been doing since August? If you're not going to do anything, let's just do single issue bills. Yes or no? Paint some sort of bold colors congressionally against the Democrats, even if you're not going to be able to accomplish much, if anything. Obviously correct. Before that, we've got a senator from arguably one of the top 5 reddest states in the union saying, our goal every morning, our job every morning is to make sure every single immigrant feels more welcome. Before that, you have the leader of the universal or global church, Catholic Church, saying, these fears over Islam, it's from those fuddy-duddies who want to stop immigration, shame. Before that, a once proud global superpower, the king of that once proud global superpower, quoting the Quran. A Western superpower, Western civilization. What are we talking about when we call Western civilization? It's
pretty much
like Christendom.
Yeah. Well, about 42% of America. That's all that's left of Western civilization.
Yes. Yeah. But what was once the artist formerly known as Western civilization, the king of the superpower that was synonymous with Western civilization, saying those things. Mm-hmm. And before that, we've got a Somalia flag being raised above some random school district in Vermont for reasons. Before that, we've got a congresswoman from Little Somalia, a.k.a. the artist formerly known as Minnesota, talking about how a prominent Jew is a Nazi and saying the real victims of Somalian fraud is Somalia. But I'm sure the Supreme Court is going to overturn this concept known as birthright citizenship. Glad tidings of great joy at 11:28 Central Time on December the 8th.
And obviously, you didn't have to do a reach to do this, Aaron. It's just God's providential timing again. That assortment of things. How many, your average American man, how much do they know about all of that combined relative to the college football playoff there?
Don't disagree with that at all.
My goodness, is that an indictment of who we are as a people?
They're so brazen now, they're just calling you the names of who they actually are. An Islamist is calling a Jew a Nazi. Right? Okay. I mean, this is why we just can't make stupid mistakes like pardoning Democrats so they can then turn around and run against us. We just can't. I mean, it's not fair. I know it's not fair that we just have to be perfect. I know it's not fair. But fair is an event they have on the east side of Des Moines every August. All right. If we're going to win, we have to maybe not be perfect, but a lot better than let me pardon Democrats so they can then turn around and run against me. We got to be a lot better than that. back here on the Steve Deace Show, and we are powered by our friends over at Kexi. You know, it says here they want to have me give you my testimonial of which of their Christmas cookie flavors I like the most, but I can't do that because I haven't got my Christmas cookie box yet. Hint! But what I can tell you is all the other boxes. Did you like that? Yeah, subtlety is my thing.
I just jumped offside.
Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah, it was me. Yeah. Nice. What I can tell you, though, is they've sent me all the other boxes, and they're incredible. All right? Their holiday flavors are out now. These are gourmet cookies, incredible flavor, quality you can taste like they're homemade with ingredients you can pronounce. The holiday flavors out now, salted caramel, peppermint fudge. Sounds like they just created a flavor just for me. Their super popular cinnamon roll cookie and more. They ship nationwide, and that's key because these are the kinds of cookies, if you buy them and like, I'll go drop them off. No, you won't. You're going to take one look at these and you're going to be like, well, yeah, I'll just try one. And before you know it, you're an Indian giver. Don't do that. Okay? Instead, just have them shipped directly to the person you're buying them for so that you're not tempted. I'm here to help you flee from youthful lusts. Okay? Or send them to me. You can also just send them right to the person you want to buy them for. These are the gifts that will not get regifted, I promise you. But shipping cutoff is December the 15th to guarantee Christmas delivery, okay? So use the code DACE15 for 15% off your next order at KEKSI, Kexi.com. Get those holiday orders in now and the code DACE15 for 15% off. But you've got to order by December the 15th. Close of business December 15th to guarantee Christmas delivery. Kexi.com, promo code DACE15 for the big discount. Let's welcome in our good friend, Bob Vander Plaats over at the Family Leader. Good to see you, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing really good till I got that flag thrown on me. Life is good.
I'm a little passionate about these Kexi cookies. I mean,
I can tell that you are.
They're pretty incredible. They are pretty incredible. So you just got back from D.C.
I did.
And I wanted to just kind of let the audience in, let you be kind of a conduit, if you will.
Sure. On
what the mood is there and what you heard or didn't hear. And I'm just going to ask questions, and I'm going to make you tell me I probably can't address that publicly. I'm going to make you say that.
I plead the fifth.
Okay? All right.
Yeah.
But can I start with a question that every single person within the sound of my voice wants to know the answer to?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What in the Sam Hill is the United States Congress doing right now? I
have no idea. As a matter of fact, I didn't go to Congress. Other than having lunch with Senator Ted Cruz, I did not go into the halls of Congress. That's a good question maybe for Mike Johnson or maybe Marjorie Taylor Greene would be more open about what Congress is doing right now. So I don't know.
So, but did you sense, I mean, you've made enough trips to D.C.
Oh, sure.
Okay. Did you sense the hustle and bustle of foot traffic and energy and pressure of we're trying to get this agenda passed and these bills lined up? Did you sense any of that at all?
No, I didn't sense that. And now to be fair, I spent most
Don't be fair. None of these, none of them deserve it, but go ahead.
Yeah. I spent most of my time with the executive branch and with Ambassador Yechiel Leiter, the Israeli ambassador to the United States, and then Senator Ted Cruz.
So you were collecting your $7,000 for being pro-Israel?
Yeah, not quite. However,
listen, I've known Bob for a long time. It's going to cost a lot more than $7,000.
Yeah,
everybody just needs to know that.
For $7,000.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, go ahead. Yeah.
But it was honestly, Steve, it was my agenda that I wanted to go to D.C. with. So it wasn't a thing about, hey, Bob, come to D.C. We want to talk to you about whatever. I really wanted to find out this whole deal with Israel, the anti-Semitism that we're seeing in the country, across university campuses, the growing threat of it on the right. Tucker Carlson's a friend of mine. You know that.
Mm-hmm.
Tucker and I have gone back and forth on text messages about this. I've not decided to air this in public. But I did want to get to some people who I thought they are passionate about this, and one of them was Senator Ted Cruz. And we had a great lunch on this. He understands. I think he and I share a lot of the same philosophy, whether it be the biblical prophecy piece of it, the strategic nature of this, and then just the politics of this as well. And the politics being, listen, if we're just going to end up dividing everybody on the right over issues like this, it's going to be awfully hard to win again.
Mm-hmm.
The strategy being you can be America first, but still have an interest in what's going on in the nation of Israel, a friend of ours in a very hostile region, as well as the biblical prophecy to this. And so that was with Ted Cruz with lunch. and then you kill Leiter as well. Wanted to find out from the ambassador. I think it's more than coincidence, Steve, as being a person of faith. You understand this as well, that you kill Leiter would speak at our leadership summit in 2024, right before he gets appointed ambassador to the United States from the nation of Israel. And he and I have developed a friendship. And we have some key ground, some common ground, as well as some key interest. And so I had a great visit with him as well at the Israeli embassy.
All right. Let me ask you some follow-ups on those two conversations. Okay. And again, I'm just going to make you tell me if you can't talk about something.
I've had more conversations too, but you go ahead.
Oh, anything else you want to mention?
Go ahead.
Okay. All right. So Ted Cruz. All right.
Sure.
I have said to this audience a few things. Number one, I have received more text from my former boss in the last, I'd say, 3 months than I have conservatively the last 3 years combined. All right. And it's pretty clear to me that he wants to run for president in 2028 and is planning on it. And it's also pretty clear to me that, what's the lane, what's the avenue, what's the opening? And that he sees, again, evangelicals are still the largest voting bloc in the Republican primary coalition. Mm-hmm. 2 of the first 3 states in the process, traditionally, we don't yet know what the calendar will be in 28, but traditionally, 2 of the first 3 states are Iowa and South Carolina. And even though evangelicals in those states are not the same, they do dominate both of those states. You are still going to have one, at least, close to a boomer-dominated primary electorate or boomer/Gen X-dominated primary electorate. And the older you skew in our evangelical coalition, the more decidedly pro-Israel you are.
Without question.
Okay. And we're still going to get way more people between the ages of 48 and 78 voting in this primary than between the ages of 18 and 28 that are all over X and obsessing over Israel and the Jews kind of stuff, mm-hmm. right? Okay. So I think he sees that that's his lane, all right? He already was very popular with evangelicals, thanks to a lot of help from guys like you and me. He was already very popular with evangelicals the first time he ran. He's retained a lot of that popularity. And in Ted's defense, it is also his native tribe, right? Comes from the Southern Baptist Church. His dad's a Southern Baptist minister. It's how he was raised. And so he speaks the native tongue. And I think that he sees where there's something to exploit here, particularly with the presumed favorite, J.D. Vance. The perception is that he is aligned with the more anti-Israel group. And I'm going to ask you about him in a minute, too. Mm-hmm. But that's where he sees that fissure there is something where he can run up the middle of that and find himself a base by which to try to expand a campaign from. This is what I've said to my audience. Based on so I've already said this out loud to them. Based on the conversation you had with him recently, would you contradict any of that?
I won't. And if I begin with the end in mind, there's no doubt in my mind that he wants to run in 2028. And whatever you think about Ted Cruz, he is a political animal. He understands politics very well, polling very well, what's his lane, those types of things. He's very politically astute. But Ted is also somebody, Steve, as you know and I know, he believes what he believes to be really real. He does not back away from it. So it's just not the politics of it.
That's an important thing. For those of us that know Ted, you I think, drew the right distinction. Ted is a politician. He is a political animal. One of the first things Ted does is check X and Politico and all that stuff every day to see what's trending.
He knows if he has a lane or not.
He does. All right. But here's the thing. What he looks for is what lines up with my principles that I can politically exploit. Yeah. Okay? And when he finds that, that's when he's at his most effective and becomes like a dog with a bone. So what you're saying is he thinks he has found that here, where his own personal convictions and principles lines up with what politically will also benefit me at the same time.
He loves his country. He loves the nation of Israel. He understands that when he speaks at Kufi, John Hagee's church, that he's going to get huge, thunderous standing.
That's Christians United for Israel, for the uninitiated. Yeah.
Thunderous standing ovations because of his message on Israel, America's leadership, what it means biblically, what it means strategically, what it means politically. He's going to get that. So the other thing he understands, though, Steve, is that he has one of the top-rated podcasts in the entire country today. Mm-hmm. So it's not that he's just a U.S. senator, from Texas, which would be a big deal the way it is. But he's got a podcast. He's talking to the American people every day. He's growing his base. He's growing his audience. And he also knows, kind of like you and I said about the governor's race here in the state of Iowa, he believes that about the presidential race as well. a primary will make us better. A primary will make us sharpen the focus and understand where we are at on the issues, and that we're best prepared to beat a Governor Newsom in the general. So I don't think he's a guy, he's not going to back away from a primary. He's also a guy, if you recall, when he got elected to the U.S. Senate in 2014, he didn't want to be there forever. And now it's kind of like, it's 2026 and I'm still here. I think he's a little bit like, hey, I've done my tour of duty in the U.S. Senate. I've done all this. I have real questions and concerns about the leadership of this country. Although I'm very supportive of the Trump agenda, I want to make sure that we can carry it through. So I think what I heard at lunch that day, he's very passionate about this country. He's very passionate about the nation of Israel. And I think he also sees there could be an opening for his candidacy if he were to run.
So that brings me
I believe he will.
So that brings me to the presumed favorite, J.D. Vance.
Sure.
And of course, because Ted is very politically astute, he is not unaware that J.D. Vance is the presumed favorite. He can read all the public opinion polls that are nothing but name ID contest, beauty contest at this point, right? I am curious, when you talked to the ambassador to Israel, the ambassador from Israel to the U.S., how much were they aware of this political conversation that's happening? How much do they think is legit? For example, a friend of the program, Big Data Republican, has a study out today that just points out that a lot of what Nick Fuentes has online is basically just fake AstroTurf. That there is some audience there. It's not so he has some following. But this idea that he's poised to be the next Charlie Kirk or any of this kind of stuff is not even remotely close to true.
No.
All right. And a lot of this is promulgated by foreign elements, for example. So essentially, Nick is Lyndon LaRouche with a foreign psyop backing it to make it look like it's more paramount than it actually is. So is it a problem? Yeah. Is it systemic? No. Okay. So how much are they aware of that? Did he talk at all about, because the vice president is seen as, because of his friendship with Tucker, frankly, is kind of seen as the candidate of the Israel skeptic group, which is interesting to me because his chief of staff, Jacob Reeses, who both you and I know, okay, is a Jew who just got back from Israel to observe the Passover there in person. Okay. Or I'm sorry, Yom Kippur there in person, I should say, the High Holy Days. Okay. So did that come up in those conversations with him at all?
Well, let me give you a little bit of a backdrop. The name I didn't drop, Senator Cruz, obviously, Ambassador Leiter, yes. But I also had a visit with Jacob Reeses in the executive office building, the West Wing of the White House. Jacob, you're exactly right. Jacob is a Jewish believer. His family is of the Jewish faith. His father has a storied background with World War II. Jacob is all in for the nation of Israel. I don't believe he's serving under J.D. Vance if he believes, the guy's not solid here on this. And I can't say a lot about my conversations with Akil Leiter, the ambassador from Israel to the United States. But what I can tell you, he's very appreciative of this administration, meaning the Trump administration, which J.D. Vance is very much a part of, and how much strategically they are in alignment with one another. And that the sharing of intel, the making sure that nobody's taken off guard here, and that we're going in with our eyes wide open on about everything. Also understanding, what is real intelligence, what is fake intelligence, and where's the fake intelligence coming from? Primarily China, Russia, others like that. The whole idea is to sow discord, especially amongst the right, because they know that's how we lose on this deal. And so Ambassador Leiter, he's a dear friend, obviously loves the nation of Israel. He values the alliance with the United States very well. And then Jacob Reeses, that was another really good visit. And regarding the threat of anti-Semitism on the right in this country. And the only thing I'd probably tell you from Akil Leiter when I talked to him about J.D. specifically, he said J.D. was really good in a lot of the meetings. He asked a lot of the right questions that a lot of people are about put America first. J.D. asked the right questions about putting America first.
So thoughtful but not reactionary.
Yeah, that's what you see in J.D., right? You saw it in the debate with Governor Walz. He didn't take any of the bait. He knew he was dominating the debate already, so therefore there was probably no reason to get upset or be reactionary to it. But what you see with the J.D., he's very bright, he's very articulate, he's very winsome, and he is very thoughtful. I'm going to go in with a game plan. And so I guess I left there, Steve, with from a Ted Cruz to a Jacob Reses to an Ambassador Leiter. A lot of them are singing off of the same page. And to me, that was somewhat reassuring.
So is it possible? I mean, Ted was given, a photo op in the Oval Office just a few days ago.
Sure.
And the president even handed him the mic to see if he wanted to make public comments. Obviously, he picked JD to be his running mate. There's a lot of talk that Sarah Huckabee Sanders wants to run. You and I have been talking about that and alluding to that for a couple of years.
Sure. Former
White House spokeswoman, another. So there's a lot of speculation about Marco Rubio and what he may do. Okay. Is it possible, when we have this many people who have some level of loyalty to Trump, is it possible that he does not endorse? Or at the very least, lets this process play out for several months before he does, to say, hey, team of rivals, the most ruthless and cunning and effective wins, okay? And it's very important we win this next election, and I think you all need to punch on each other and lean on each other a little bit to make sure you're ready for what's coming your way, kind of a thing, rather than right away I just say, this is my, prince in whom I am well pleased kind of a thing. What do you think?
I think you're right on. I think this is going to be more of an apprentice type thing. I do not believe it's going to be a quick anointing. And even though he may think, JD should be the guy, I think what it is like, no, let's let this process play out. If there's not a clear winner here, if the MAGA movement, if the Republican Party is not just saying, no, let's anoint JD at this point, then he's like, no, let's let this process play out. It'll make JD tougher. It'll make Ted tougher. It'll make Marco Rubio, Sarah Huckabee Sanders. And I'm just telling you, if you get those three running, let's say Sarah Huckabee Sanders runs, Ted Cruz runs, JD Vance runs. If those three run, I got to believe Ron DeSantis is running. I got to believe Nikki Haley is now running. I believe that makes Marco Rubio. So, see what I'm saying?
A lot of our audience wouldn't mind if her son ran.
Yeah. and all of a sudden, the field starts blowing up. Mm-hmm. And that's where a Marjorie Taylor Greene, all of a sudden, she comes in because I want to have a voice in. You've seen it before. Everybody wants to have a voice in the process, right? So I believe, and I just told our team, I said, I think that the caucuses could actually be a much bigger number than we initially thought. Remember last year? When we
30 seconds.
Yeah, it's going to be a shadow primary if Trump runs, doesn't run. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, all these candidates started running. And I think you could see that same thing happen again, all hoping that they'd get Trump's, basically anointment.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
All right. God bless, guys.
You bet. Hour 2 is next. Stay tuned. All right, we're back here with Hour 2, live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast, alongside Todd Erzin and Aaron McIntyre. I'm Steve Deace, and you can let us know what you think about what we think via the stevedeace.com inbox by emailing the show, steve@stevedeace.com. That's DEACE. Like us on Facebook, MeWe, and Gab. You can follow me at Steve Deace Show on X, Instagram, and TikTok. You can also subscribe to our new YouTube channel at Deace Show on YouTube, at Deace Show on YouTube. And then finally, if you guys wouldn't mind, if you do subscribe to the podcast channel, thank you. You can join them today. Hit subscribe, or if you're on Apple iTunes, follow, and that's how you'll know for sure that every time we do a new podcast, it's right there in your feed. And then you can also, if you wouldn't mind, leave us a 5-star review. Literally tens of thousands of you have done that. So it's incredible. Thank you very much. And of course, you guys know we would never ask you to lie. Some of you are going to be like, I really don't like this show. We wouldn't, first of all, we'd ask them, why listen? There's too much time in the day to listen to things you don't like, unless you're Gertrude at Media Matters and it's your job. Okay. But if you just kind of like the show, we would ask you to exaggerate. We would ask that. We don't believe there's no commandment against exaggeration or embellishment. So we would ask for an exaggeration if you just kind of like the show. So all we want are 1- and 5-star reviews, and you guys have obliged. Thankfully, there's been a lot more 5 than 1s. So thank you for that. And we would appreciate it if you would add your rating to your podcast platform today. Also appreciate our friends over at Raycon. It's funny. I always talk about how these, whenever I get a new set of Raycons, they just disappear in my home. The next day after I talked about that the last time, and then the new Raycon showed up at the house, and Anastasia was at the house and saw the Raycons on my desk. And she decided for the first time to come up and ask me if she could have them. I was like, that's just a nice touch just to ask me instead if I'll let you have the Raycons. So, of course, I obliged. This is what it's like when your kids grow up. They get more mature. Before they just take your stuff, they come up and actually start asking for it.
I'm a little shocked, quite frankly, because when she comes here in the studio, she seems to relish pulling one over on you. So it must have been a moment of weakness.
Yes. I think she knew that I was already sensitive to having my Raycon stolen all the time, that it would probably be a very cunning tactic to come to me and ask instead. And of course,
so the game is still afoot, is what
it is.
It is.
Okay. It's just being played in a way more passive-aggressive way. Yes. All right. So regular earbuds, they block out everything. You can't hear someone calling your name, a car honking or anything. But the new Raycon Essential Open Earbuds, they sit just outside your ear canal. So you still get really clear sound, but you can actually hear what's happening around you too. They're really light, and the ear hook part rotates, so they actually stay in there. So you can wear these things at the gym, on walks, doing stuff around the house. They don't fall out. They don't get too uncomfortable. Just, again, one of the latest innovations from a company that has over 3 million customers because of the sound quality they offer. And it's also just way better than the more expensive brands as well. And if you don't like them, they have a 30-day guarantee. So get the Essential Open Earbuds. They're here for the holiday season, and they're selling fast. Raycon, Raycon, Raycon audio products. They're up to 20% off this holiday season if you go to buyraycon.com/SteveOpen or Steve to save on Raycon audio products site-wide. Order by December 15th, guaranteed delivery by Christmas because great gifts shouldn't show up late. Buyraycon.com/Steve. That's buyraycon.com/Steve. Well, we talked to our friend Bob Vander Plaats last segment to get a report from what he just discussed during his gallivanting around D.C. Another friend of the show is here with us now. Iowa gubernatorial candidate Adam Steen is here with us. And Merry Christmas to you, brother. Good to have you with us.
Merry Christmas. Glad to be here.
So you just got back from the kind of place and event that a lot of our audience would love to attend and be a fly on the wall. Okay?
Yeah.
You just got back from Mar-a-Lago.
Yep.
And the massive, TPUSA event they had there to kind of their end of year event to honor their organization and to kind of lift them up and support them. So first of all, so here's the thing. I get invited to a lot of these kinds of things, but they're not my thing, and I kind of don't go unless someone comes to me and says, hey, we really could use your help with something. Like I instead had the granddaughter all weekend. Amy and I had Autumn all weekend. All right, just hung out with her. That's a much better Saturday to me. Even though I had a lot of people I'm sure I knew down there, friends I knew. I saw you ran into Glenn Beck down there.
Absolutely.
But you guys are all, dolled up in tuxes and stuff. That's just, if I have to, yes. If you ask me to, yes. But you got to ask. Right? Okay. I'd much rather be hanging out in the granddaughter complaining about how much snow's on the ground in Iowa, right? Just how I roll. All right. So, but this is in every era, it's kind of unique, right? When the Bushes kind of ran things, particularly in the George W. years, something like this would have been at a ranch, right? Or a barbecue. Okay. But again, Trump is a star. And so our movement now kind of always embodies kind of the ecosystem of the leader. And this is his ecosystem, right? Okay. Yep. I got to tell you a story that J.D. Vance just told, because I think it'll kind of sum up what this era is like with Trump, right? And Vance just told this story about how him and Rubio were in the Oval Office a few months ago with Trump, and they're having a really serious conversation about something. And out of nowhere, Trump just interrupted him and pointed at their shoes and said, you guys just have really ugly shoes. That's not going to work. Okay. And he pulled out this catalog on his desk and he said, just pick out 4 pairs, whatever you want. It's on me. All right. So all right, if you're buying, sure, we're in, all right. So fine. All right. Few months go by and Rubio and JD are in the Oval Office with Trump again. And now they're in the Oval Office with another elected Republican whose name will not be disclosed, but I'm told it's a name everybody knows. All right. And same thing. They're in the middle of this serious conversation again. And out of nowhere, Trump just looks again and says, you guys all have terrible shoes. And Marco and JD look at each other and said, I thought we did this one already, basically, right? And said that to Trump. He goes, all right, you know what? You're right. Just do this for me, all right? just tell me what size shoe do y'all wear? And I'll buy you some more. Okay. And Van said he wears an 11.5. Rubio said that he wears a 13. And the other guy, whose name will remain nameless, says, I wear a 7.
I was going to say, tell me it's a 7. Tell me it's something.
And Trump just looked right at the guy and goes, I know. All right. All right. So, the first time I heard that, I laughed out loud, just like I did it again. All right. That kind of that's the era we're in, right? And for people like us as guys from Iowa, we're much better off, raking leaves or shoveling driveways. If we're going to be successful in this era, we got to get comfortable in these kinds of settings, right? So let's start there. What was it like just to go down there and be at Mar-a-Lago and you're dressed up in a tux and it's 80 degrees, but back here we got a foot of snow and everything else? Just what was that like?
I wasn't missing the snow, number one, but I got to tell you this. Based on that story, the day before I flew out, I went to Von Maur and bought a brand new pair of 13s.
Yeah, there you go.
So I could bring them down. I had brand new
I'm not going to be the guy who gets singled out.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Nope. That's exactly right. I told my wife, I said, look, these shoes aren't going to cut it. I'm buying new shoes. And so we went down. That's exactly what I did. And they were 13. So we got that going for us too. But no, it was, I'm an Iowa guy, born and raised. I love fishing. I love hunting. I love being around the woods. I love taking my boys out, getting dirty, sledding. But going down there in that situation, although it could be out of my comfort zone, it's not, because I'm on a mission. And in order to fulfill the mission, I've got to get prepared and I got to be ready to go, to be in groups like that, have conversations, have real conversations, not just about the state, but about the country. And it fires me up to get in those crowds, because I can sit down and I can talk to people and I can share my heart regardless of what clothes we're wearing. And they see it, they feel it. And the last thing that's going to stop me is being sort of scared or uncomfortable going into a situation like that, because I'm so mission focused right now. Just like TPUSA, I've never seen a group get up after their leader has just been killed. Mm-hmm. They got up and they said, we are doubling down on our mission. We're doubling down, if not tripling down. And I sat there and just had a fire grow in me, because that's exactly why I was down there, because I'm doubling down on our mission up here. And to see that group, whatever clothes we're wearing, there are ranchers there. There's people in cowboy hats and red boots and red tuxes, all these different things. But we were all there for a mission. And I was fired up about that, and I'm still fired up about it today.
So you are an ordained minister, and this is your first round as a political candidate, right? So you've been working in the private sector, and then you essentially were the chief operating officer of Iowa for the last 4 years, right? So, can you sense, because this is kind of your first foray in a lot of these kinds of political, get-togethers, could you kind of sense this is not just an average political get-together? I mean, I know there's all the pomp and circumstance here, right? And we're here at Trump's house, basically, and we're all dressed up like it's senior prom or, a wedding, okay? But you can just sense behind the pomp and circumstance, there are serious stakes at play here. Could you kind of just spiritually sense that?
I had a Holy Spirit fire in me the entire time. So much so, and I don't need to share it now, but I left on Saturday night, got back to the place I was staying, and I opened up the book of Nehemiah, and I started reading that based upon everything I saw and I heard.
One of my favorite Old Testament books.
The attacks that are coming against this organization would blow your mind. Mm-hmm. It's insane.
I'm aware of a few.
Yeah, I mean, it is absolutely insane. And I would talk to people, and within 3 minutes of sharing my heart, these people didn't know me. They knew I was a candidate for governor in Iowa. They perk up and go, okay, tell me about you. And in 3 minutes, they would say, we need to help you. You're the type of candidate that we need in this race. You're the type of candidate that we need to help win. Everybody down there was mission focused from even Oregon. There are folks in Oregon that believe they're going to flip Oregon from blue to red. Mm-hmm. That's how fired up they are, and they're not backing down. So yeah, there was a sense of Holy Spirit peace that was built around the battle that they are in right now. It was amazing. To say it's surreal isn't describing exactly how it was, but there is a battle raging, and there are patriots that are stepping up all across this country, ready to rock and ready to roll. So
I know you got to see a lot of Erica Kirk this weekend, because she has taken over the leadership position from her martyred husband, and this is maybe the most successively public she has been since. We've seen her in moments, but this was essentially an entire weekend where she made herself available to the public. And I don't think it's a coincidence because AmFest is coming up here in about a week, right? And she'll be asked to, to be more of a public face for that than she ever was in the past too, for tragic reasons. So what was your impression of seeing her in person?
Yeah, two things. The air left the room in a good way. Like, she has a presence about her that the entire room shifted. We weren't expecting her to show up to the first event. I saw her speak 3 times. Mm-hmm. The first event, we weren't expecting her to be there, and the entire room, probably 1,000 people in the room, were standing around talking. Everybody shifted. You could hear gasps, like, she's here. Mm-hmm. And she got up, and I don't know if she had a teleprompter. I don't think she did. She went out, I believe it was no notes, and she shared her heart. Not a soul in the room was talking. They weren't tweeting. They were filming, but they were listening to every single word that she said. So I watched her deliver messages. I can't imagine how difficult that was for her to do. But I watched somebody who was again, mission-driven, mission-focused, who was ready for this battle. And I thought, this is pretty awesome to see her getting up there and do that. The second thing I noticed, and they mentioned it on Saturday night, it's the third time I heard her speak, they talked about the necessity to get women involved, young women, get young women engaged in this battle. And there's not a better person than Erica Kirk.
To be the antidote of the
100%,
the feminist
100%
feminism that's just rotting our nation at the core as we speak.
She's the one.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's a great takeaway for the entirety of our audience to hear that, because we have all over the last couple of cycles, especially, seen what is there's so much, and Charlie was so rightfully focused on our young men, mm-hmm. right? But also what's happened from losing a generation of our young women. And you can just see that now with, the last election cycle, the Democrat pitch to our young women was, let guys who don't care about you use you, impregnate you, and then just go ahead and just kill the baby whenever you want and wash, rinse, repeat, and we'll let you do that, right? Mm-hmm. Just really just soullessness. There's no purpose. There's no idealism there whatsoever. That's the thing about matriarchy. Whenever it's been tried in ancient cultures or in our current era, and that's essentially all the new feminism is. It's the old matriarchy. Whenever we try it, we always end up reducing women to exactly what the matriarchy claims it doesn't want to reduce the women to. We essentially, that's why you always saw in the pagan eras, the eras of antiquity, you always saw the temple prostitution and everything that went along with that. Our version of that has been the sexual revolution, right? So now, our daughters just give themselves to men who are never going to care about them, never take care of them, no responsibility, same kind of thing. Yep. We always, that's why I always say the only thing that's worse than the patriarchy is the matriarchy. All right. We always end up reducing women to nothing but their sexuality every single time we abandon God's design for the genders and the sexes. So to have her out there as a focal point to that would be tremendously beneficial and inspiring for sure.
Yeah.
What about for you as a governor candidate, though? What did you take away from this that will come back now and impact the way that you're going to run the rest of this race from here?
Yeah.
Other than, as a guy who's supporting you, hopefully a laundry list of contacts. All right.
Right.
But we'll talk about that after the show.
Absolutely.
All right?
We got some calls to make tonight.
All right. That part notwithstanding, though, but for you personally, all right, what did you come away with that you thought, wow, that either just drove this point home or made me think about this differently?
Yeah, it made me think about things differently in a way that I didn't see this one coming when I was down there. And I did a short video on this, but we have an opportunity. I watched generations come together down there, young, middle-aged, old. They came together to surround each other with resources, money, relationships, you name it, to come together to help this mission. And so I left and I went, okay, as governor of Iowa, I will not stop until every church in Iowa has a TPUSA chapter. Now, TPUSA has several different divisions, mm-hmm. but every church needs a TPUSA chapter.
There's TPUSA Action, TPUSA Faith.
TPUSA Faith, yeah, absolutely. Every high school needs a TPUSA chapter. 100%, absolutely. Every college, I don't care if you're public, if you're private, whatever, every charter school, you name it. Name a school, name an organization. Every single one of them needs a TPUSA chapter, and I will be advocating for that on a regular basis in this campaign as the governor of Iowa. That is what's going to keep Iowa free. That's what's going to protect our culture, and that's what's going to resonate and capture the revival that's coming in this country. because it brings young, it brings old, it brings middle-aged people together. That is the generation that's going to fix this thing. And I'm going to double, triple down on that. And I will be the biggest advocate this state has seen for TPUSA and what they're doing.
Another thing I want to ask you about after we talk about our friends over at Real Estate Agents I Trust, because in these unprecedented times,
Bing.
All right, you need to make sure if you are going to dare take on whatever we're calling this real estate market, going on really now since the fall of 2019. So since COVID till now, it has been sluggish to say the least. There's been a ton of changes as well. And heading into 2026, you have to know this is one of Trump's biggest priorities to fix this, because it's one of the biggest keys to fixing the economy and winning next year's midterms, right? So expect more changes, all right? That's why you need an agent you can trust, one with a proven track record of success. We will make sure that's verified before we introduce that agent to you. And a lot of times you're going to find they come from right here in the Blaze audience as well, right? So whether you're moving across town or you're moving across country, this can be a difficult process even when it's not unprecedented. Even when the real estate market was booming, one of the most stressful things I've done in my life was buying and selling a home at the exact same time. And if it wasn't for an agent I still trust years later, no way we would have done that. You're looking for that kind of an agent, the kind of agent you're going to be recommending to the people you care about for years to come. Where will you find them? The name says it all. realestateagentsitrust.com is where you want to go. Again, head over to realestateagentsitrust.com. So one of the things that I learned from Charlie, Adam, and he just taught me this directly, is, Charlie was a showman, okay? And so they had the T-shirt cannons and all that other stuff and the confetti, okay? He loved to put on a show, right? So he was a showman, but there was a purpose to it as well. Mm-hmm. And that a lot of times, for example, back in June, he gave me the Belly of the Beast tour of their operation. And even I was blown away by the depth of what he had built. And I just said, listen, you could be your own political party. Everything that's required, you could do. That there's people who have risen to success because of their support of Trump. And then when Father Time eventually comes for him, like it does all of us, that's going to hinder their ability to still be relevant. Mm-hmm. If anything, I told him, brother, your influence is just beginning. This is going to take on a completely different level, because under the surface of the glitz of AmFest and the fun and all that kind of stuff, okay, under the surface of that was a fully armed and operational battle station called TPUSA. And I think that more than anything is why the enemy shot him in the throat, because he knew that what was being built there was beyond what the public thought they were seeing, okay? That was only just a part of who they were, okay? It was a very missional organization. And, we opened this conversation talking about how you and I are both guys from Iowa who feel much more comfortable sitting in some jeans, playing with the kids or the grandkids, and hanging around at the house than in the middle of Christmas getting out of the snow to go in the 80-degree weather to wear a tux, all right? But did you sense that too? Now that you've been there, though,
yeah,
and now that you've, went eye to eye with people, shaking hands, did you kind of get the same sense that I just described that Charlie showed me before he died, which was, listen, there is a stage presence aspect to this, but under the surface, there's a lot more happening here than I think our enemies truly understand and realize.
1,000%, yes. I left going, this is the way. This is the way to save this country. This is the way to take our country back in areas that we've lost it. This is the way to save our country in areas that we're threatened to lose it. But it has to come from organizations like them. I was blown away at their infrastructure. Mm-hmm. I was blown away at their passion. I was blown away at their desire. I was blown away at their ability to showcase what they've done. And ashamedly, I didn't know some of the stuff that they had done, but it is massive. They have an infrastructure that is across this entire country, and people from all across the country showed up to support it because they can prove it. You can say showmanship here, but then you see the guts. You see the organization. You see the 6 buildings on their campus and everything that they're doing from that regard. The hundreds of employees that they gained employees after Charlie was murdered. Mm-hmm. People wanted to come back, and they said we are in more now than ever. And so I saw an organization that is designed to protect this country. And I believe 100% that the spiritual warfare that is coming right now is because the enemy, who is evil, is trying to fight good. And that organization is promoting good on a rate. They're showmen, but they're promoting the good that evil does not want to see thrive, and they're not going to stop. And I'm not going to stop here in the state. I'm going to capture that, and we're going to double down.
So let's apply this now to where the race stands here in Iowa. All right. So I know you've got a candidate forum tonight up in western Iowa, which is the most densely red part of our state in terms of Republican primary voters. Where is this race at right now, do you think?
Yeah, I feel very comfortable where we sit. The Iowa Standard poll came out. We're leading that poll. We're getting unbelievable feedback from across the state. Congressman Feenstra still refuses to show up at these events, doesn't want to show up, doesn't want to get on stage. I'm comfortable.
Now, wait a minute. This is his congressional district.
It's probably 10 miles away from his hometown.
So the forum is in his congressional district. He's not going to be there?
Yeah, correct. He declined the invite. If I were him, I would too. I wouldn't want to stand up on stage next to me with me talking about good versus evil, with relevant statistics, with relevant plans, with relevant things that we can do in this state. He's got nothing. Hasn't led on anything, will not lead on anything. I wouldn't want to stand up there against me either.
So he had about 30 some odd days during the shutdown where, I mean, he could have come back here to Iowa and really press the flesh and the pedal to the metal and get on the campaign trail, right?
Yep.
I mean, you were all over the state during that period of time. I mean, what did you say?
I saw Iowans wanting leadership. I saw Iowans wanting people to listen to them and come up with thoughts, ideas, strategies with legitimate leadership. I saw Iowans wanting people to speak truth. I'm getting attacked by Rob Sand right now.
He's the Democrat nominee.
Yeah, the Democrat nominee is attacking me because I am talking about the battle of good versus evil. Mm-hmm. Well, guess what? This is a battle of good versus evil. And if we're not willing to stand up and point that out, we're going to lose. But Iowans all around this state are resonating with those statements because they see it too. They see what's happened in Minneapolis, Dearborn, Michigan, everywhere in Illinois. All of that evil is trying to infiltrate the state. And I am out there speaking biblical truth into these situations, talking about good versus evil. That is resonating with Iowans right now because they know it too. If they don't see it with their own eyes, they feel it in their heart, and I'm willing to speak truth to it.
By the way, I think we may have you to thank for why we don't have another satanic statue fiasco.
Correct.
In the state.
Correct.
So my understanding, if I'm factually wrong about anything, you correct me.
Yep.
Okay. My understanding is that it was on the docket. The Church of Satan had applied for another permit to have a satanic display at Christmas time for the third year in a row, and that it had been on the docket for about 2 weeks.
Yep.
And nobody in the state government had moved to deny it or anything at all.
Correct.
So you called an event down there at the state capitol a couple weeks ago to say, hey, we cannot, I'm getting sued by the Satanists for stopping this last year. We cannot do this again. All right?
Correct.
And literally about 10 minutes before your press conference, and it wasn't like at 8 a.m. Your press conference was like at 1 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Okay. About 10 minutes before your press conference was supposed to start, then it came down that they were going to deny this.
Correct.
Is that pretty? Am I factually wrong on any of that?
You're exactly right on everything. I denied this same event last year. I'm being sued for it today. 14 minutes before our press conference, we got word that they had denied the event. So I turned around to the over 100 people that showed up at the Capitol to call for the denial of this event. And I said, we won. Mm-hmm. I said, the Lord won, good won. We have defeated evil today. And it's because we stood up and we wouldn't back down to the evil forces that are out there. They're trying to overtake our state. It's not going to happen. And people are rising up. And it worked. It got the governor's office. It got the state to deny this request again, thankfully, and it worked.
I think the key there is that you waited. You didn't just sit there the day they applied it and let's schedule a press conference and try to exploit this. This sat there for a couple of weeks.
It was at least 2 weeks.
It was being pondered for a couple of weeks. Yep. And then at that point, well, then we've got to, this can't happen.
We have to stop it. Yeah. I did not put my name on the line last year and deny this event to get sued just to sit back and let it come into the Capitol. I didn't do that. My name's too important to me. I don't do those things just for funsies. I do them to protect kids. I do it to protect children. And I'm not just going to sit back and let those things happen.
Well, the libraries where you're going up, the part of the state, the libraries where you're going up to, and again, this is the most densely Republican part of the state. They're putting the porn back in the libraries up there.
Yeah.
So I mean, again, as someone who's supporting you, please make sure that gets mentioned at that forum.
Yeah.
tonight.
No, we have to cut that crap out. It's evil, and we've got to decimate it.
The thing that just real quick for Todd and Aaron, going back to the conversation we had at the top of the hour, where Republicans used to just, and this is what DeSantis was talking about, just put stuff up there, make Democrats vote against it so you draw a contrast, right? I mean, Randy Feenstra is a member of Congress, guys. He could have been doing this every day. Just put bills up there that force Democrats to vote no and then turn around and say, look at the contrast, I'm leading on these issues. The fact that guys won't do this, in even Feenstra's case, when he's running for office, and it would politically benefit him to do this, just blows my mind. Mm-hmm. Blows my mind. You real quick before we get out here, you guys have a thought on that real quick?
He, as a voter, he doesn't respect you. Bottom line, he's had multiple opportunities on multiple issues to deal forthrightly with the people that he needs the vote of. And if he wants to call himself a frontrunner, that's not a reason not to be amongst the people. It should be all the more if that's authentic.
Correct.
But he knows it isn't, and that's why he's hiding.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing more inauthentic than this attempted basement campaign. Honestly, again, maybe I'm a little bit naive and a little bit too Pollyannish, but I kind of think even if you are the front runner, if you really care about the state, if you really care about the people of a state, you should be engaging with them as much as possible. But we're not seeing that. So there's only one explanation for that, is that you're not really authentically, you don't really care about.
If you won't show up in your own district.
All you care about is making sure the bottom line is correct for somebody, whether that's you or somebody else. You don't really care.
All right. Adam, before we get out of here, people want to learn more about your campaign and want to donate. All right. Where would they go?
AdamSteen.com. AdamSteen.com.
AdamSteen.com is where you want to go. STEEN. All right. AdamSteen.com. And you'll learn a lot more information about Adam, his campaign. You can follow, what's the Twitter handle or the X handle? What is that?
Oh, shoot. I don't have that off the top of my head.
All right. I will look to see what that is.
It's just at Adam Steen.
Just at Adam Steen, because there's a bunch of stuff up there from TPUSA and who you met over the weekend and stuff that I thought was really cool as well. All right. Good to see you, brother. Thank you.
See you. Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you.
All right. When we come back, I thought we were done with these conversations, but apparently we're not. We have yet another member of the military still being persecuted for refusal to take the poisonous jab. And a deadline for him is approaching. So we want to highlight his case and hopefully help get the Secretary of Defense's attention on this when we come back. Stay tuned. Back here on the Steve Deace Show, powered by our friends over at Chirp. And listen, man, preventative health is so key in this day and age, but particularly for the time of year we're about to embark upon. That's when a lot of people are going to get serious again about their health, fitness, etc. But the problem is, if you wait too long, those muscles can atrophy, injury becomes a real concern, and that's where things like what Chirp does are so key. I mean, listen, all they want to do, their mission is very simple: bring relief to as many people as possible so you can feel better, restore your energy, make self-care simple. How do they do this? Well, with FDA-cleared devices, and these are the same techniques that are used in clinical treatments, but without all the expensive appointments, trigger point rollouts. I'm just going to tell you right now, that's a life hack. Take it from someone who started working out at 400 pounds, right? Trigger point rollouts are going to be your friend. I mean, I travel with them now. That's how key they are. Right? They've got a full slew of those at Chirp as well. You can get the Chirp Contour to help with your alignment, your back, your neck especially. There's the Halo. Sometimes those nerves, could need a little jump start. It helps you with that. I love the Rolling Power mini massager as well to get in there to help massage some of those areas that where that acid really builds up. And then inflammation really builds up, break some of that up, cause that blood flow to get there now, to give a healing to the body. And it will help for you to be proactive so you can remain active. All right. Now, click. What you want to do is go to gochirp.com/Steve, CHIRP, gochirp.com/Steve. And if you do that, all right, you're going to get free shipping on every single order. gochirp.com/Steve, CHIRP, like birdie chirp. All right. I promise you, you won't regret this. It's these kinds of techniques and treatments have helped me to stay active and healthy well into my 50s now for several years. gochirp.com/Steve, CHIRP for gochirp.com/Steve. Well, I had kind of hoped that we were done focusing on these kinds of stories. And to give credit to the administration and to Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, most of this year we have largely been. But there are still some stragglers out there, still some things slipping through the cracks. And, Aaron just corrected me during the break. This case is even worse than what I thought. Because in this case, we have somebody who did take the poisonous jab, but then just dared to ask questions about it later. So let's bring in an old friend of the program. One, with all due respect to our good buddy Davis Younts, we were kind of hoping not to have a reason, Davis, to book you anymore on the show, brother. All right. But Merry Christmas to you. Good to see you. Your beard game is still strong. All right. That's good to see. All right. But
Merry Christmas, brother.
And I know you're not offended at that because if we're having you on, it's bad news. Somebody needs help, right? We got to put the bat signal up, right? Okay. All right. So,
yes, sir.
All right. So tell us here. We're going to talk to Brigadier General Chris Sage here in a moment, but just give us the background on his story and why you took this case and what our audience can maybe help with.
Yeah, so the big picture overview is General Sage is an Air Force fighter pilot. He's one of the most highly decorated Air Force fighter pilots. Early on in the COVID process, he did what he was ordered to do. He got the vaccine. Later, as a general officer, he started asking questions. He was subject to a Marxist cultural investigation by the Biden administration. It was absolutely a classic example of oppressor versus oppressed sort of mindset. The ball was moved many times. He was a victim of the auto pen, so he had a promotion to 2-star general that was taken away from him by the auto pen. And then following the process, General Sage submitted a request to correct his record to the Air Force Board of Corrections for Military Records. The Air Force Board of Corrections very recently ruled in his favor. They decided 2-1 that he should be given relief, should be promoted to 2-star general, given back pay. And they said that they believed the actions that were taken against him were likely the result of his stand and the questions he asked regarding the COVID vaccine. So you would think we wouldn't have to come on and talk about this because he won at the Board of Corrections. And that's the process we've been told for all of our clients to follow. Unfortunately, a functionary in the Pentagon, and I'll be very critical of this individual, General Sage won't be for various reasons, but this individual within the Secretary of the Air Force's office overturned the decision of the Board of Corrections and denied General Sage relief. So now, a highly decorated veteran, someone who has served, who has followed the process, who has been a hero with combat hours in combat, is facing mandatory retirement right after Christmas on the 31st of December as a victim of the auto pen, of these Marxist cultural battles that occurred, of COVID retaliation, and he followed process and won. And a functionary in the Pentagon who is not getting on board with Secretary Hegseth's agenda decided to overturn that decision, highly, highly unusual, overturn that decision with the stroke of a pen. So that's why we're here asking for help. Congressman Namaste and his office have been heavily involved. They've been great, but we are getting down to a deadline. And I think this story is important, not just for General Sage and his family, but there are others, unfortunately, of much lower ranks without resources to fight back on this that are being victimized by the same sort of bureaucratic pushback within the Pentagon. So we thought it was really important to talk to you about it and get this story out there.
So, General Sage, first of all, just, Davis mentioned some of your accomplishments. I'll itemize them for our audience. Over 4,000 flight hours, over 1,000 combat hours across 7 different deployments, Bronze Star, 15 Air Medals, the Combat Action Medal, the Presidential Unit Citation. You've led operations all over the world. So first and foremost, I just wanted to say, sir, thank you very much for your service to our country. And obviously, your record is the esteem of your record goes way beyond what one person is currently doing to you. So we're going to see if we can help. And when we get off the air today, I've got a couple people I know. I'll ping them about your story and see if I can maybe jostle some things loose where that is may be helpful as well. But just tell our audience where you're at. What kind of questions did you dare ask? And how has this process been frustrating for you despite your service to the country?
Well, Steve, thank you for the introduction, and it is an absolute honor to serve. As we start, I have to just mention that I'm speaking to you today in my personal capacity as a private citizen. I'm not here in any way representing the Air Force or the Department of War. But yeah, in 31 years, I've been given many wonderful opportunities from an operational perspective, from a leadership perspective. But it wasn't until I was deployed to the Middle East a few years ago where I started, during the height of COVID, by the way, where I started to question the COVID narrative. It was one focus only: execute the mission, but also take care of our airmen in any way we could. So for a quick example, one of the mandates that came down, or recommendations, was that our airmen wear masks all the time, outside, inside, underneath loud aircraft, in this 110-degree sun. It just made no sense. So I signed a directive that said our airmen, our maintenance personnel, are not going to wear masks outside. When I first arrived at the base, we were also putting our sick airmen, our airmen that had COVID, in a isolation tent that had barbed wire around it. So I quickly ordered, in a very kind way, we're going to tear down the barbed wire. These airmen are not prisoners. Unfortunately, they're sick. And when we got our numbers low enough, we actually put them in our VIP quarters so they could actually recover in dignity, where they had internal plumbing at the time. So this happened. There were people that just were opposed to sort of my worldview, just to question, why are we doing this? Always operated within my authority and within the law. I presented information that I found through peer-reviewed studies to our doctors to show that, hey, these masks are not going to work. In this situation, it's probably not going to work. And we just kept pressing forward from there. And then eventually someone filed a complaint against me, an unfounded complaint, by the way, 7 allegations, which were all thrown out. But then the investigator twisted the investigation, took it to another level, and then broadened the investigation, looking for something else to go after me for. And he focused on the climate of the wing of the organization. But the bottom line is, we fought this for 4 years. As Davis mentioned, I trusted the system. I followed the process. I spent over $100,000 on lost back pay, but also on attorney fees. Hired some fantastic attorneys that helped me fight this. And then when all other avenues were exhausted, we took our fight to the BCMR, the Board of Corrections for Military Records, and we won. And we celebrated very, very briefly until we read the memo that this was being overturned because, from what I can surmise, perhaps attorneys within the Pentagon decided they disagreed with the board that spent 1 to 2 months researching all the evidence. They saw all the testimony. They had access to all the material, and it was overturned within hours, if not days. So it was devastating to our family that's been with me through this for the last 4 years, being sidelined, having our promotion taken away. But the reality is, Steve, it's not just about me. If I can fight this for 4 years. I have the resources. We had the patience. I had the love and support of fantastic family members. My wife is absolutely amazing. We've been married for 27 years. She's a veteran, a mother of 5, an attorney. We continue to fight because it's those young captains and those young majors and those young tech sergeants and staff sergeants that don't have the same resources that are being treated the exact same way. So last point is, we're very optimistic now that President Trump has basically come out and said that all auto-pin documents are null and void. My letter the memo stripping me off the promotion list is one of those letters, and therefore should be null and void. And Davis is currently looking into that for me.
Well, thank you again, man, for your service, your resolve. Just an excellent example. So Davis, back to you. When you and I talked early this year, there was a bit of, I guess we'll say, a fumble with the initial rollout of honoring those who had been wrongly persecuted by the previous regime because of the scamdemic. But you were hopeful that Secretary Hegseth had noted that and was making the right course correction. I remember he put a video out, I want to say, where he even acknowledged, hey, we didn't handle this as well as we should have, and we're fixing that as of now, right? Okay. So since you haven't pinged me since then, I have to assume that for the most part, they've been pretty good over there about keeping their word. And so how abnormal is this particular case here with Chris?
So there are aspects of this case that are abnormal because you have the Board of Corrections ruling in his favor. And again, that gets into sort of this inside baseball of how the Department of War works, but this is the process within the Air Force. The problem that I am still seeing, and you talk about this fumble, Secretary Hegseth did a very brave thing. He did something that all of his attorneys in the Pentagon, all of the bureaucratic creatures that have been there for decades told him not to do, which was just state the truth that this was an unlawful mandate. As applied to military members, it was unlawful. In many respects, the Department of War has been moving forward. The Undersecretary of Defense for Manpower, Undersecretary of War now for Manpower and Personnel, Secretary Tata has done a fantastic job in his role working for Secretary Hegseth. We have seen tremendous results. I've had Army officers that were given rank, promotion, and back pay taken care of as they should be. Unfortunately, right now, the problem is the Air Force. The Air Force is still the branch. There are attorneys, there are bureaucrats within the office of the Secretary of the Air Force that are not on board, that are resistant to this, that are still holding on to Marxist principles that were a part of the Biden administration, and they simply are not going to let go of the fact that they disagree with anyone who dared question the narrative on anything related to COVID.
So what can our audience do? How can they help, Davis?
Absolutely, they need to be engaged. They need to be following this issue, and they need to be reaching out. Congressman Mast and his office have been fantastic on this issue, but they need to be reaching out to their senators and congressmen, talking about General Sage's case. But there are other Air Force members that are still waiting for relief, that are still getting denied by the bureaucracy, by the administration within the Department of the Air Force. And so we need to keep attention on this, because the problem is the civilians within the Pentagon. I've been to the Pentagon. I've been at these meetings, but some of them have been there for 30 years and they move from office to office to office. They are the deep state, if you want to talk about it that way. And they are resistant to this. They don't want to follow these orders. They don't want to follow these policies. They're doing everything they can to try to wait out the current administration, as well as good leaders that are there. So some of this is just simply supporting men like Secretary of War Hegseth, Assistant Secretary of the Air Force Matt Lohmeyer are great men. They're trying to do the right things, but there's so much bureaucratic inertia and resistance. They need attention on it. They need help. So call your senator, call your congressman. Don't forget these issues. Stay on it. Follow the real issues that are happening. And then we can have the pressure and we can give the public support that these individuals within the Pentagon need to do the right thing, those that are trying to move the ball forward.
All right. After the show, Davis, you send me like an elevator pitch level bat signal on this. And I know several people in Washington. I will see if I can get this on their radar and we can get some movement on this. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. And again, General, thank you very much for your service to the country. And hopefully this has helped. And I'll try to invest some personal time into your case too, see if I can raise some awareness. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Steve.
You bet. God bless you guys both. And Merry Christmas. Take care.
Merry Christmas. God bless.
All right. Gentlemen, your thoughts on that conversation and or today's show as a whole?
Somebody in the Air Force clearly needs to be court-martialed. I mean, we've had cross-dressers publicly stepping up in positions of leadership that, they're doing whatever they want to on this Christmas and last Christmas, even though they hate Christmas. This is an American patriot and a God-fearing man, and this is what he has to deal with. This is intolerable. And that's why that last pitch Steve talked about, this is up to us. They will, if they can do this to a guy like him, and that's why it's so important. He didn't make this selfish. This is about everybody. Everybody who wants to serve their country. Everyone wants to separate the wheat from the chaff in the name of God and stand on that wall. If not now, when, folks? Do what you can.
The just cruel and evil irony that we're having this conversation right now, as there are multiple elected officials that are, with a wink and a nod, calling for sedition amongst our armed forces.
There you go. Yep.
Where this guy is fighting for his I've got his page pulled up on the Air Force's military page. This guy is the who's who of assignments and decorations, serving his country admirably. And here he is fighting for his very career for merely asking questions in hindsight, in retrospect. Those people, he's fighting for his career while elected officials get to, with a wink and a nod, as I said, call for sedition. That's bass-backwards. Todd's use of the word intolerable is right on the money there. We just can't live like this. There's no way a government or military, for that matter, can function like this.
That's Senator Curtis from Utah. Every day we should all get up in this country and ask how we can make foreigners more welcome. That's Legion.
Yes.
That is Legion.
Yes.
It's in every single institution. It's also why, and I'm just going to say this again, we cannot make mistakes like pardoning Democrats and then have them turn around and run against us. We're at war. We don't owe our enemies anything other than we are not permitted to do things that God says we can't do. Short of that, we're, one side's winning and one side's losing. Amen?
Amen.
I mean, look at the resolve of the other side. Just thumbing their noses right in the faces of the Secretary of War, right in his face, to a general even. Go hard, Romans 8:28.